Welcome, class, to the Intro to Java Programming. Today's lesson on the hash set is the third in a series to introduce 4 of the more popular collection data types. A set is a collection of objects that cannot contain duplicate elements. There are several types of sets available, each with their own unique characteristics. We will cover the most popular set, the hash set. Let's say we have a group of people that love the movie Transformers. The circle represents a set of unique elements or items, in this case, people. We could have another set of people that love the movie Star Wars. We cannot have duplicate people in a given set. We can have the same person in multiple sets. People can be added to a set. People can be removed from a set. Often the purpose of a set is to determine if an element exists in the set. Determine the intersection of 2 sets, or combine the elements of 2 sets. We'll go over more examples in code a little later. First, let's cover a few rules or guidelines to remember. The size of a hash set can change. All elements of a hash set can hold a single value that must be the same data type object, like all integers, all strings, and even all custom objects like the myBank object from Lesson 4. A hash set will not maintain the order values are added. Duplicate values are not allowed in elements. If the data type permits, null values are allowed, and a hash set does not offer a sort method. Here is the syntax for declaring a hash set. Hash set is the class followed by a non-primitive data type inside the angle brackets and then the variable name. Since this variable object is created from a class, we use the new keyword followed by hash set. I would like to point out the use of a set is very handy in specific situations. You should be aware of the set variable, even though in some cases there is a better collection option. Let's go to our basics project in IntelliJ. Let's close any open tabs. Inside the collections package, let's create a new class. We'll call it HashSet Test. Let's make a little space. Let's import in these objects. Here's a test to show how to add one item to a set. Later, it proves you can add many items to a set. Let's run this test. And it passes. This test shows a compiler error if you try to add an element that's a different data type. Notice that with HashSet is looking for a string, and here we're passing in a number. Let's comment this line out. Run the test. And it passes. Time for a Coach Joe challenge question. In the rules and guidelines for a hash set, I stated duplicate elements were not allowed. So my question is, what happens if a duplicate item is added to a hash set? One vote for runtime error and another vote that nothing will happen. So here's a test that tries to add a duplicate item to a set. Notice IntelliJ is giving us a warning. It's a duplicate set warning. There's no compiler errors. Let's run this test. The test passes. So you can try to add a duplicate item to a set. There will be no compiler error and no runtime error. Does the hash set have a get method? Does the hash set have indexes? The answer is no. Remember, the hash set does not maintain the order items are added. Therefore, there are no indexes. Also, you cannot get an element from a hash set. What you can do is determine if the element is in the hash set. Here is a test that starts with a hash set and we try to get an index. Notice the compiler error. Get is not a method of a hash set. Let's comment this line out. Let's add a few new lines in. The .contains method will return true or false if the specified value is in the set. Here we are testing for an item that should be found and another item that should not be found. Let's run this test. And it passes. Here is a test that shows how to remove an element from a set. The .remove method will remove an element from the set. Also, notice we will try to remove an element that is not a part of the set. Let's run this test. And it passes. There was no compiler error, there's no runtime error for the index that we tried to remove that did not exist. Here is a test that proves a null element can be added. We'll run this test. And it passes. Remember we talked about intersecting sets? Let's build a test to show intersections. Here is a set that contains some Java students. Here is another set that contains some students that love to cook. There are times when we will need to know if an item exists in both sets. The .retainAll command will return those items in both sets. A word of caution here. This is a destructive command. The contents of Java student will be changed and hold the final answer. The contents of cooking students will not change. If we run this test, it will pass. Now let's talk about the union for sets. Let's build a test to show how union works. In this test we have two sets of integers, one that contains some odd numbers and another that contains some prime numbers. The .addAll method will combine all unique items into one set. Again, this is a destructive command, so the contents of odd numbers will be replaced with the combination of both sets. Prime number set will not be changed. Let's run this test. And it'll pass. Here's a summary of all the code we wrote for this lesson. When to use a hash set is a tough question. The ArrayList can perform most of the actions of a hash set plus maintain order and get a specific index. Let's review a few considerations for ArrayLists and hash sets. If you plan to inspect each element of the collection, use the ArrayList. If you need to maintain order, use the ArrayList. If you need to create an intersection or union of the collections, use the hash set. Time for another Coach Joe question. The ArrayList allows duplicates, but you could check to see if an element is contained in the list before adding. The hash set doesn't allow duplicates. With that said, why should we use the hash set? Correct. Less lines of code are needed for a hash set when duplicates are a possibility. So what could be a good example where a hash set is the right collection to use? Let's say I want to show a movie during the next class as a reward for all the hard work accomplished. I can poll each student and ask them for the last 5 movies they have seen and enter them into a hash set. It is possible that 2 or more students may have seen the same movie, so the hash set will handle duplicates gracefully. After all the data is collected, I could check my list of available movies to find the one that is not contained in the hash set. I will say the use of a hash set is infrequent, but when needed, it is very useful. You should now have an understanding of the hash set collection, including rules and guidelines. Several tests were written to show the syntax and features along with examples that illustrate many of the rules and guidelines. Finally, you should be aware that the hash set is one of several collection options to be used in specific situations. Your optional homework assignment is to build a test that creates a hash set of integers. Populate the hash set with 5 items, remove an item, and verify the size. In the next lesson, we'll cover the hash map collection. Remember, future senior developers, make it work, prove it works, then make it better. Ready? Break!